Hey guys, welcome to the start of a new reading vlog where I'm going to be reading Alone with You in the Ether by Olivia Blake. I don't normally do dedicated reading vlogs for like one book, especially like spoiler free. I just think it's kind of boring. And it's not to say that I wouldn't enjoy watching this video. You should totally keep watching this video. But it's just like not my thing. I like when people talk about a lot of different books, but I also know that people like just like dedicated reading vlogs. And I'm reading this book for Katie Coulson's book club called The Smut Salon. I'm going to be participating in her live show this month. It's motivation for me to read it, and it's also, I know she's doing a dedicated reading vlog as well, but she's already read it at this point. But I am going to start reading this and read it all for a vlog because I'm going to copy her, because isn't that the most sincere form of flattery? I don't know, something like that. No, but I really am interested to read this book, and I think it will be like an interesting one to just vlog my experience reading it. So I have started, I'm taking intense notes because I have never done like a live show book club thing. I have like a book club at my school, but we don't do like, I don't get stressed about it. Not a lot of people are there. So I'm taking a lot of notes. I have cute little tabs that I bought that like match the cover because I'm freaking aesthetic like that. Annotating as I read. I'm 18 pages into it and I am confused a little bit. I'm enjoying the writing, I guess. The way that this is told is really interesting. I don't know, there's like interjections of a narrator, but you're telling me who exactly the narrator is. You're like, the narrator is this middle-aged woman who doesn't give a shit, and then you have her narration, and then you have this like separation of fonts that kind of are like inserted as almost like screenplay sort of things, where you're like, this is the description of the scene, you know, this is what you're seeing, and then this is the action. It's very much playing with form, which I think adds to probably the story I'm anticipating, because it says it's a contemporary love story like none other, but I don't think that it's like necessarily contemporary, because it seems to kind of play with the concept of time and space, I guess, and obviously in the writing style form that this is written in. So I am interested to see like what the actual like narrative of the story is, and how like the way that it's written mirrors or adds to what's going on in the story. Like, is it reflective of the thematic elements of the story? I'm not sure. It has to do with bees, I guess. So I don't know why. We have two main characters, Reagan and Aldo is like a mathematician, but he's also like really interested in bees and hexagons, and Reagan works at an art institute, and they meet at the institute, and that's literally where I'm at. This book both also deals with mental illness, so I'm really excited to see that representation, because that's some of the stuff that I just really enjoy reading about. It should be a book that I really am going to enjoy, and that's why I wanted to read it. But yeah, it's a really interesting story so far. Like, I just like don't know yet what's happening, which I think is intentional. I am not sure. I will update you when I'm a little further through. It's like very like immersive to read though, and I'm really like enjoying reading it, so I will let you know once I get further into it. It's a short book, but it's like there's a lot of words on each page, so. Hello my friends. So I have an update for you on Alone with You in the Ether. I just got off reading sprints. I've been doing them a lot recently. If you are coming from a reading sprint, if that's where you saw me or you met me for the first time, I love you. And if you didn't know, I'm trying to do them like way more frequently, and meaning actually doing them. Yeah, so I just read a decent chunk of this. Then my tabs are really coming along. I'm not a beauty guru. I am now on part five. Variables. I was like kind of keeping my thoughts to myself a lot while reading this, because I don't like putting out something into the universe and then like being wrong. I wasn't gonna be like, this is my favorite book of, like, just making like weirdly grandiose like statements about my anticipation for this book, because I didn't really think I was gonna like it, and I am really liking it. I'm just like apprehensive because I don't want to like, I just hate the disappointment that you feel. Anyway, yeah, I'm 200 pages into it and I'm really liking it. I still think that the shifts in narrative are not my favorite, especially certain ones, and it does kind of drop that thing that I was telling you about where it has a font change, it has an introduction of a narrator. It drops that around like the second or third part. So I'm like, why is that so inconsistent? But the things that I do like that Olivia Blake does with playing around with the narrative voice are interesting, and I think add to the story that she's trying to tell, the actual like fitting into the narrative. And have become like some of my favorite parts. Like, I don't love it every time she does it. I feel like sometimes it's executed well and sometimes it's not. There's a section where, because this is told in third person omniscient, there's a section that's kind of, you get like a lot of internal monologue, which is interesting, but there's like one section in particular that's like an internal dialogue, and it's basically one of our main characters, Reagan, imagining or thinking about this conversation with her mother. And it goes from that to her talking to herself, to her talking to Aldo, our other main character, like all in her head, like without warning or transition. And like that part just really confused me, because I was like, not necessarily what is the point of it, because as much as I am critiquing the like sudden narrative shifts and the differences and like discrepancies in form, I do think that it adds to the characterization of these characters, because genuinely, like, this is some of like the most accurate representations of bipolar that I have seen. Like, speaking from experience, I think it has really great representation, and it does kind of feel like a manic episode, like someone was manic while writing this. Like, I can't speak to Olivia Blake's personal experience or whether or not this was own voices. I think that's how it feels. Oh yes, she does have a mood disorder. I just read it in the back. So I think that she did a great job representing the mood disorder community, because this feels like the highs, like the pacing of it too, like mirrors these like highs and lows. Like it's kind of crazy. It's really, like, that's why I can respect it. Like, there's parts I don't like love, like I just genuinely like don't love reading or get confusing, but I can see how it like creates this effect that she's going for. And I also can see how this was self-published, like, you know what I mean? Like, I can see that like this is a hard book to sell because it is so like, I don't want to say disjointed, but kind of like it's just kind of all over the place in some ways. I can understand that. But I think it's like a really weird, interesting book that's very hard to like pin down or like compare to other things. Like, it definitely reminds me, because then there's like a shift too that I like just got to, and I was like, oh my god, that's what the book is. And I was like, ah. But it reminds me, I guess, of like The Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind in some ways. One of my favorite movies. Normal People in some ways. One of my favorite books. Like, it has a lot of things that I really do love about just like centering on a relationship and complicated if not, you know, broken people, you know? Yeah, I'm very much enjoying this. It's just like, it's a long book, like, because of the text is very small and kind of clumped together. It's a lot. It's like heavy. It's a heavy read, and you kind of got to do a little bit at a time, but definitely enjoying this. Guys, I finished Alone with You in the Ether. What a ride. Really, what a ride. Like, I didn't know where this was gonna end, and I think that the ending made a lot of sense. I probably updated you less than 100 pages ago, so I did finish my tabs. They are so pretty. I'm literally obsessed. Like, I don't know why I didn't do this before. Guys, my next pairing. What do we think? I'm giving this a 4 out of 5 stars. I'm gonna talk about more in the live show. If you haven't watched that, or if you're not on a Katie Colson's Patreon, you can actually sign up and then you can watch it later. I think that it's a great story. I think that this book had the characterization that I wanted from the Atlas 6. Like, it's so crazy to me that like Olivia Blake also wrote the Atlas 6. Like, that doesn't make any sense when you read this book. I guess some thematic elements carry over, but like her characters are so rich in here. It's like much less plot based. It's not very like linear. It's very interesting. I think that the parts that didn't work for me were like the timeline fluidity is the best way I can describe it without like telling you. Like, it just got a little like confusing, and like I understand that we're getting this because we're in these characters' heads, and they're thinking about all the possible avenues, or they're having this conversation in their head, or this is what's happening like in their mind like most of the time. But like having so much of the page dedicated to that is not the most enjoyable reading experience for me, although I do understand how it adds to the complexity of their character, how it kind of flushes out different aspects of what they're feeling and stuff, and just is a lot of showing, obviously. So it's just like, that wasn't my favorite, because like if this was told like in a kind of more traditional writing style, it would be like Cleopatra and Frankenstein kind of. Like, low-key. Like, I think that there are a lot of stories like this that are told, I guess, like conventionally through the genre, like through following generic conventions that I can name and that I've loved. And I think that what sets this book apart is not... That's so weird. Yeah, like the parts of this book that set it apart from other literary fictions, such as like that follow the same kind of themes and stuff, are the parts that I didn't like, or are the parts that were like my least favorite. I gave it 4 stars. That is not at all a bad rating. This is definitely a book I will think a lot about. I tabbed the shit out of it. Like, I have so many thoughts. Like, it is such a beautiful depiction of love and mental illness and compulsion and just really like heavy, fractured, broken things. That was my video for this book. Hope you tuned into the live show or you just enjoyed. If you want me to do more like solo book reading vlogs, I could do that because I read books all the time. And with that being said, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all the things, and I will see you in my next video.